Hey everyone. Today I wanted to tell you a little bit of my story and kind of why I'm so adamant that people leave toxic relationships. I've actually escaped some pretty nasty relationships, and um, the ones that got the really most nasty, I've escaped three such situations. One was with a best friend that I'd had since kindergarten. The second one was a relative. Fortunately, I'm related to them, so only getting police involved was able to help resolve that one. And last was a work situation. So today I'm going to tell you a bit about the issue I had with a friend growing up. Like I said, I had a best friend since literally the first day of kindergarten. I turned to my right, hey, do you want to be my friend? Because that's how 5-year-olds work. She's like, yes, I'll be your friend. So we were best friends that day. And, we had a lot of fun. We both had a lot of things in common. We both loved reading. We were actually I think it's possible that we were the only ones who came into kindergarten already knowing, in my kindergarten class, who already knew how to read. It's very possible. I don't know for sure, but there were definitely at least only two of us and not many others. We both got good grades. We both had a stay-at-home mother. We both had a little sibling who was an infant when we started kindergarten, so about 5 years younger than ourselves. And after kindergarten, she and her family had moved to another school in the district, so we wouldn't get to have class again until 8th grade. We still went to each other's birthday parties and stuff. We would swap books. We would call each other on the phone. We would be each other's pen pals. And by the time we got to 8th grade, it was like we hadn't even been apart. It was great. You get back with your best friend. But over time, our ways of thinking kind of got poisoned. And there's a bit of a cross-pollination going on where some of the things that I was hearing at home and some things she was hearing at home kind of got into each other. We both had a lot of pressure on ourselves by our parents to get good grades. Her father was an engineer. We both had one immigrant parent. We both were subject to the whole, I came to this country so you could have a better life scenario, even though, neither of us were, even thought of when our parents came to this country. But she dealt with it by feeling the need to be perfect 24/7. I dealt with it by having a lot of distractions. So, I had a lot of activities to take my mind off of the pressures that I was subjected to. So I played softball. I was in the marching band. I was in the concert band. I used to do dance. I was in even like an honors extra math class. We would have a yearly competition that we would partake in. And it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of real world application skills. So, in this extra math class that had competition, I learned public speaking from that. And I did that for 5 years. And I did this extra class for 5 years, and I learned a lot about public speaking. I learned a lot about academia and how you would present, the scientific method and how you would present a paper or your research. It was great. But here's the starkest example of how my best friend and I were different. Because she wasn't allowed to do a lot of those things, or maybe she said she wasn't allowed because she felt that it would sacrifice her perfect grades. But I remember it was late January in 9th grade. She dragged me to the counselor's office with her to go find out our class rankings. I didn't even know we were being ranked. I just knew that my friend was anxious and stressed, and she didn't want to go alone, so I had to go support her in what was going on. So I thought there was genuinely something wrong at home, or that she was having a panic attack for whatever reason. I knew that my friend wasn't right, and I was there to help her. And we ended up going to the guidance counselor, and she said, oh, I need to know what my class rank is. And he looks at me, he's like, I guess you'd like to know too. And I was like, yeah, why not? Like, I didn't even know we were being ranked. That was when I found out we were being ranked. And so they said, to my friend, well, you are second in the class. And they said to me, oh, you're 10th or whatever. I was somewhere around there. By the end of everything, I was 10th. I was just like, okay, cool. I'm in the top 10%, and I'm not even really, I didn't even study, I'll be honest. in my entire time in high school, there was only one class I studied for, and it wound up biting me in the butt when I got to college, because all of a sudden I was surrounded by really smart people who knew how to study, and I didn't know how to study. But anyway, after my friend had found out that she wasn't top of the class, every semester she would do this. The rest of the day she would be crying through class, on the way home, on the bus ride. Even when we talked to each other later that night, I was trying to make her feel better, tell her some jokes, or tell her about something stupid that my brother did, or ask her what her sister's up to, ask what her dog's up to. Just try and make her feel better, take her mind off of the fact that, she wasn't top of the class. But she absorbed all of her time and all of her focus on these metrics. Now, granted, I would get my class ranking, and I'm like, well, it's not representative anyway, because literally an A in AP Calculus was worth identical to an A in concert band. You went to AP Calculus 5 days a week. It was a difficult class. You went to concert band once, maybe twice a week, depending on what the concert schedule was. And your grade was completely contingent on whether or not you showed up for the concert. If you went to the concert, you got 100. If you didn't go to the concert, you got a 0. Like, literally, it was, and that 100 in concert band was literally worth the same amount on my GPA as getting a 100 in AP Calculus. So I knew, some people were smart and they would take easier classes just so they could have a higher class ranking. I just took the classes that interested me because I just do what I want. But she would take all of the hardest classes that she could, and she would get so depressed that she was only second. Now, even if the grades were weighted properly, it's very likely that she would have still not been first in our class, because the person who was first in our class just pretty much had perfect grades. She almost always had near perfect grades. She was super smart. She's super successful. She's super talented, and she worked hard too. I don't think there was anybody that didn't like her. She was probably the only cheerleader that was actually pleasant to me on a regular basis. And, I still reach out to her every once in a while and check how she's doing. She's doing really awesome, and I'm happy for her. But back to my best friend, she would find out that she wasn't top of the class, and she would cry the entire rest of the day. And it got to the point every semester where I kind of knew what was going to happen, and I would try to delay us going to the guidance counselor so she would spend less of the day crying. But it was just awful. She would hyper focus on many, many metrics, from her weight to the number of compliments that she received on anything, like honestly, some random thing. Like, oh, you have a nice shirt on today, or hey, that poem you wrote was fantastic. She would focus on these compliments, or even something, like her height and then her class rank. I don't understand why she didn't focus on her GPA rather than the class rank, because to me, the GPA is what you can control to a degree, whereas a class rank, you shouldn't be controlling that, because you shouldn't be sabotaging other students. But that's a whole nother thing. But I noticed that she had this tendency to hyper focus on a lot of things that were, for the most part, out of her control. The only thing that she really focused on that was within her control was her weight, and to an extent her GPA. She was very, because, you get fantastic grades, and as long as nobody beats you, you're good. So she was doing the best that she could in school. But another thing would start happening shortly after. Once she started dating, it was like I didn't exist. Even when she was dating my own cousin that she met while she went on vacation with me and my family. During this vacation, he was the only focus, and it was like the rest of us didn't exist, even though we're the ones who brought her. Now, obviously, I found this really annoying. I had other friends who dated too, and sometimes they disappear. We're teenagers, they would disappear with their partners, go do romantic stuff or whatever. But if they weren't doing anything romantic, like my other friends didn't really have a problem with others joining them in the activity, whether we were going to the mall or a restaurant, or if we were hanging out in the band room together or whatever. whatever was going on, as long as my friends and their partners weren't, getting intimate of any sort, they didn't care who else was around. They liked having their friends there. They wanted their boyfriends to get along with their friends. They wanted, and we wanted, I was one of those friends that wanted to make sure that my friends were being treated well by their partners. And there were a couple I didn't trust and had good reason to, but overall it was not that bad. But pretty much, this particular, my best friend, she absorbed all of her time and attention into whomever her partner was at the time. When I was kind of getting upset about, hey, you're supposed to be, you're literally hanging out on my vacation with, me, using my parents' money to go make out with my cousin and act like we don't exist. She would call me an attention whore. She would start projecting suicidal ideation on me. She would tell me that I'm suicidal and that I should kill myself and that the world would be better off if I were gone. And not only would I not be missed, my disappearance would be celebrated. After so many times of hearing this through so many of the boyfriends that she's had, I started to believe it. It's kind of those garbage in, garbage out type of situations. And of course, I was also having this similar projection from a family member. This family member would try to project insecurity onto me as well. Why aren't you smart? You're like your best friend. She's second in your class and you're only 10th. She's going to get into an Ivy League school and you're going to end up having to struggle to get through community college because you're not doing your grades aren't good enough. You're not doing the right things. First of all, no, she didn't get into an Ivy League university. And is there really something wrong with community college? First of all, it's a great deal. Community college is a great deal for what you get out of it, what you put into it. It's not like you automatically get a crappy education because you went to community college. Some of the community colleges actually provide much better, attention for the students, for those who want it. And if you actively go there and you act like a sponge and you seek out every opportunity possible, community college is fantastic. That being said, I had only taken a handful of classes at community college. It was more to help get credits out the way. I wound up getting a pretty good scholarship to a pretty decent school and wound up going there instead. But if I had to go to community college, the only thing that would have sucked about it would have been the fact that I was still living at home with my parents. But other questions, why aren't you pretty like your little blonde friend? Okay, woman, my father is from freaking Italy, okay? Maybe if I was meant to be blonde hair, blue-eyed, have a nice narrow nose like a German, then I should have maybe had a German father. That's usually how that genetics work, right? I had another question. Well, why aren't you bilingual like your other friend? Oh, you mean the one who immigrated here from South America and had to learn English as she went? Well, maybe I'd be bilingual too if I came from South America. The comparisons just went on, and I had comebacks for them all because, I was a smart aleck and I had to come back for just about everything, especially as a teenager. But like the situation with my best friend, when you hear things enough times, even the most resistant and resilient thinkers just start to believe what you hear. It's a garbage in, garbage out, like I said. And at the point between my junior and senior years of high school, between this brainwashing on, between the family member, my best friend on one side, and my internal mindset on the other, I had mindset one: you're worthless, you don't have a future, you should give up now and kill yourself before you waste your parents' money by going to college and, wasting all that money that could have gone to help set them up for retirement. Then there was mindset two: this place sucks, everyone I go to school with is inbred, and I just need to get out of this tiny town and find my people so I can fulfill my real potential of creating inventions that lead me to running a company. We all have ambitions. But those were the two mindsets. I was the rope in this tug of war until I left for college. But early on in that tug of war, I realized my best friend wasn't much of a friend. So I cut her out. That summer, I blocked all of her social media, instant messenger screen names, you name it. I stopped answering the phone, or I would cut the phone calls really short once she remembered who I was. I had the opportunity to go on a trip and I just threw her souvenir in her mailbox. And I was just, I just drove by, threw it in the mailbox, and left. Obviously, she knew it was from me because, and that her parents knew about it, because I did get like some form of thank you. I don't remember if it was an email or a handwritten letter or something, but I did receive a formal thank you for it. But again, I was struggling on that tug of war. But I just cut that unhealthiness out of my unhealthy relationship out of my life for the rest of the summer. Now, I was still receiving it from the family member, but at least I wasn't receiving it from her. Of course, when school started, it started a bit of drama, because when you used to be attached to the hip with somebody, and now you won't even sit on the same side of the room as each other, it draws attention. People I barely knew and only knew because we had classes together for so many years was suddenly super interested in my social life, and it was really strange and uncomfortable. Those people wanted us to make up as friends for some reason, but some of my real friends were completely understanding and very accommodating. They would say, hey, we're gonna go do this, this other person's parents said that she can't go, or she's already out, making out with her boyfriend, so she's too busy to come. Or, hey, we wanted to invite you first, and if you say no, we'll invite her. It was, my friends were, for the most part, pretty accommodating. So eventually I put up with her being around, just because we had so many classes together. I never really brought her closer than an arm's length, although sometimes I felt like I was completely close to, sliding back into old habits. But I had to simply deal. We had several classes together still, and I just had to sit there and deal with it. So I guess what I'm saying here is that if there's someone out there that makes you feel insignificant or worthless, they're wrong. They're wrong. They're the ones who feel insignificant and worthless, and they need to pass that feeling on to someone else so they don't have to feel that way anymore. And I'm sorry that you ended up being the person they chose, but trust me, you are worth it. Whatever it is that you want to be doing, you are worth it. Go, just go work on yourself. Go do the thing. Go do your things. The next several videos that I'm going to make, they're about the steps that I've taken to identify and remove those types of people in my life who make me feel like I'm small, worthless, insignificant, and don't have a future. I'd like to help you see the red flags before you fall hard for that potential partner, or take a seemingly promising job, or meet up with a new friend from your class, socially distanced, of course, socially distanced. But an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. At least that's how the saying goes. And I've gone through this situation enough times to kind of pick up on some cues that I've noticed, because I've actually come to ID certain people as people that I didn't want to be around. And then they wound up getting a hold of somebody else instead. And that person wound up having to deal with it. And I wish I had been able to warn those people. So I'm going to be warning you. So take care, stay safe, make sure you know where your priorities are, make sure that if you have somebody like this in your life, you know you need to get out. So you're worthy of whatever you want to do, and you're worthy of whatever you need to get done. You are worth it. All right. So take care, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.